What is up, everyone? I'm Pete, here with Zachariah.
Hello.
I'll never call you that again, don't worry. This is Open-Minded, and today we're going to ask the question, will there be a World War III?
This is a cool subject.
They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime.
Like, the interesting thing is the houses you see around you are all solar houses.
21st Century Fox has been holding talks to sell most of the company to Walt Disney.
So what do you think, Zach?
Will there be one? I think it's kind of inevitable. Like, there's inevitable. There's humans are gonna be around for a while, and we get into wars.
Yeah.
And we've already had two in the amount of time. Like, almost as soon as we were able to have, a world war, one happened. And then right after that, another one happened. And there's wars all over the world. It's just not about the same one thing.
Yeah, but a lot of those wars are proxy wars that we initiated or helped initiate with our enemies. And the reason why we're doing those proxy wars and not like an all-out like front war is because we have technology now that can destroy the entire Earth. So, I mean...
Do we, though?
Yeah, if we get into a nuclear war with, like, Russia... But between the United States and Russia, those two countries own, like, 93% of all the nukes in the world.
Yeah.
So if we get into an all-out nuclear war with Russia, the entire world would end.
I don't know if the nukes are that crazy. I don't know if nukes are that... Like, a nuke would destroy my town easily, and the surrounding
yes, but it wouldn't just
area...
be one nuke.
Yeah,
if we shot a nuke, then they would shoot a nuke, and then we would shoot another nuke, and they would shoot another nuke, and then we would and then China would shoot some nukes, and then fucking whoever else is on our
side. Is that the first thing we would do is shoot a nuke? I don't know.
No, it's the last thing that we would do, which is why, like, that's the reason why
we could come to agreements and have world wars
without using nukes.
Without using nukes. And, like, maybe not biological warfare anymore. Like, we can have wars for the sake of having wars to settle disputes, like gentlemen, without
why do we need a
to
war to
horrible
That's
people.
not settling a dispute like a gentleman is
I
going
think
to
it
war
is.
with them. No.
Yeah. Well,
finding
war under rules.
diplomatic
war under rules.
No, finding a diplomatic solution to our problems is a much better idea than going to war and continuing to be a war-hungry country.
I think we need... Well, because also, would an alien attack count as a world war?
That would be the actual definition of a world war. I'm not even talking about that.
But that's one reason why I think
if
we
aliens
need military.
attack us, if aliens attack us, then we're going to go to war whether we want to or not, because it's a war to... I mean, that's not always... Yeah, if they attack us, we're going to defend ourselves. Yeah. And we're going to use everything in our power, but as a species, not as a country, like defending ourselves from another country. Mm-hmm. Like, do we really need to be at war with each other anymore?
Yes.
Can't we combine all of the best things about all of our countries? And
what if there's a country that's nothing really good about it, and they just have to submit their entire horrible culture to something more civilized and known to be better and more productive?
Well, the reason some cultures are the way they are is because they don't have the resources to thrive in a way that, like, other cultures do. Like, developed countries, their cultures are different than developing countries because their lives aren't as hard. They don't have to deal with starvation and dirty water. I mean, some people do, but not nearly as many as in, like, developing countries that have corrupt governments that enslave their people. They don't have they weren't dealt the same hand as you and I.
Yeah,
so.
But then what if we are like, you have to stop doing that, and they don't want to?
Well, that
can't let them still be having slaves. I mean, You got
Yeah, you're
stop
right.
that.
I think that we have some type of a responsibility to stop that kind of stuff from happening. But the only way we know how to do that is through force.
Well, the only way to
And then
do it is
that's
through-
how ISIS is formed.
Yes.
Please silence your cell phones. I'm just kidding. But that's how ISIS was formed, you know? Like, we were in that country, we were in Afghanistan and Iraq, trying to, you know,
make it better.
give them
They didn't want to get better, so they
Well, I think that we also had ulterior motives, like taking all the oil for ourselves and destabilizing
We're
the
not
region.
talking about that situation. We're talking about an imaginary one. But whatever. Will I do I think a World War III will happen again? I think more than likely, or 50-50, a little bit more, maybe like 70-30, we will have another world war at some point, I think. But it will be under rules and things like that.
There's no rules
It's a big
with war.
subject, too, because, like, people already come up with, like, who would be on whose side. Like, if there was an Axis side, there'd be, like, Russia, China, Iran, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, North Korea, Kazakhstan, Belarus, Houthis, Palestine. The allies would be USA, Canada, the EU, NATO, except for Turkey, GCC, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, Philippines, Sudan, Israel, and Haiti.
Though that list makes sense. I mean, that's kind of been the dividing line through all of the world wars. Maybe a couple of countries like switched from one side to the other, but that's kind of been like the Axis and the Allies for the entirety of all the world wars. And I mean, is it because that's literally like the opposite side of the world as us, and so their morals and ideals are that much different than ours?
Japan would be on our side.
War? Yeah, but that's because we occupied Japan after they tried to kill us and bomb us.
But then that's another reason where a good thing can come from
war?
From war and from taking over. Like how you're saying, like, because we went in there and did that, ISIS was formed. Well, we went in there and did that in Japan, and Japan was like, wait a minute, they actually have something here. And now they're one of the biggest economic powers in the world, like, that has ever been.
True.
You know, because we showed them the right way, and they were like, oh, actually, yeah, that's a good idea, you know?
It's just disappointing to think that the only way to have peace is to go to war.
Well, you gotta get rid of the people that are not willing to get peace. And then peace can happen.
There's always going to be corrupt people in the world. Like, even if we get rid of all the corrupt people, like, there are going to be other corrupt people. And a lot of the times we're going into countries like that for corrupt reasons, like the reason we're in the Middle East.
Yeah. But then we'd have to worry about China as far as, like, manpower. You know,
I think China is our biggest risk, more than Russia, because look at what they're doing. They're building up their navy. Mm-hmm. They are refusing to help us with controlling Korea.
The South China Sea? That's insane
they're
what they're
taking over
doing
the
right
South
there.
China Sea.
Yeah, I know.
They're taking it over and saying, oh, well, our ancient Chinese maps say that the sea is part of China. So technically this is our land, and now they're pouring dirt into the Chinese Sea and making naval bases and not allowing any of our trade ships to go through there.
And they have about 1 million more active members than we do. But then I think about, like, what Chinese people are. You know, they're not generally intimidating structurally, you know? So, like, I imagine, like, if they had, like, reserves or if they just put in a draft, like, we don't really have to worry about them so much.
That's not true. They outpopulate us by, I think, 3
a lot.
times.
Yeah, I know a lot, but I'm saying the quality of their people is not as good as our quality.
I think that's a little.
We have
say
more
that.
people.
Wait, hold on. I think that's ignorant to say that because we have just had different upbringings. They, China is a communist country, so they have different views about country and about self and about family and about culture and everything. That doesn't mean that they're less quality of a person as anybody else. That
Well, it
just
was only
means
up until like 100 years ago
there's a
or
lot
so
of
that
smart
they had
people.
emperors or whatever, right? They were
But
still
that
in
has
that
nothing to do
mentality.
with the quality of the people, though. That
Yeah,
has
it
to do with
does.
the quality of the
Because
government.
for
Look
so
at the way
long,
our
they've
government is
been-
being run.
Well, for
Look at
so
the way our
long-
government is being run. It's being run so corruptly, and we might not have a king
Yeah,
or a
but we're
queen
taking
that's
care of way
crowned.
more.
That's
Our
what
quality
if
of life
our
is 100 times better than the average person in China's.
that's not necessarily true.
Yeah, it definitely is
Hong
true.
Kong.
The
Hong
average
Kong-
American person's life is 100 times better than the average Chinese person's life. Definitely. I would stick by that, yes. And that's what I mean.
I think
average
quality of
person
life
is way better, and we have a better selection of people than they do for an actual military.
So I think that the quality of life of the American people, I agree with you, is probably higher than most Chinese residents. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the quality of person is better. I think that they outpopulate us, so there has to be, there's a lot of smart people over there who are innovative, who are inventing, who are business people, who are economically smart, but they're stifled by a communist government, so they're not able to thrive.
See,
and
I think
they don't have the same.
There's billions of people, or they have so many more people because they resort down to eating bugs and still having kids. Like if you're at a point where you're surviving because you're eating bugs, like in America, we'd probably be like, this is no place to. I'm in no predicament to raise a child. In China, they just do it anyway. And then they start eating tarantula legs.
Regardless of the quality of the armies and the quality of the military and the technology that either of us have, do you think it's going to actually come down to having an all-out world war, with army against army, with us versus China or us versus Russia? Is it going to come down to that? Why can't they, the Chinese government, although they're very aggressive and military heavy, I don't think that they want a world war either. They would probably rather be our partners because they make way more money from us when they're manufacturing our shit than when they're trying to fight us and kill us.
Yeah, but then they could just give everything to Russia.
Russia is big as geographically, but the amount of people in Russia is minuscule compared to America.
Yeah.
And the amount of opportunity in Russia is minuscule compared to America. So the amount of opportunity, both for
that
individuals, but also for businesses, they would lose. They're going to want to go and stay in the place of consumers.
But that's the whole thing about quality
consumers.
over quantity that I'm talking about. China has 1 million more people, active units than us, but our quality is better. That's why we rank 3 in largest army. They rank number 1. But we rank number 1 in most powerful army. Also, Russia isn't even on the list for top 5 largest armies, but they're number 2 in most powerful army.
So they have much less people than both us and China, but they are just as powerful as us. It's because they got a lot of nukes.
Yeah, I don't know if nukes go into it, but I know they have an insane amount of tanks and all this stuff, but the Spetsnaz, and they have insanely trained people, but I think generally speaking our military is just of a finer quality, So
I think that has a lot to do with our technology too.
So many countries just by ourselves. If we were to just let loose, somebody the president was just all right, generals take over, and he didn't really have any say because he's president doesn't really know what he's doing. Just gives it to his best general, and he gives him full power to do whatever he wants. We could take on so many countries just by ourselves.
Well, General Mattis, who is the Secretary of Defense right now, he has said in the past that we need to put more money and resources into diplomatic solutions he said either that or I need more money for more ammo. And he does not want more money for more ammo.
Mm-hmm.
He wants the diplomatic solution because more ammo means more war means more death. And yeah, I mean, that's his job. He's like literally his job is war. But he still doesn't want an all-out war.
Americans, which would be to not go into war.
Yeah.
But that being the case, that he doesn't want to, doesn't mean that he would not go into war if we were pushed into it.
Yeah,
which is where I think what's going to happen is we're eventually going to get pushed into a world war, and
that's
everybody else
with all the other
something's
going
to happen, and because someone's backing someone has to step in, and then someone has to step in, and then someone has to step in for them, and then someone has to step in for them, and it's going to turn into a world war.
That's what happened in World War I and World War II.
It might not take years. It might just be like months or maybe a year or something like that, and then everyone's like, wait a minute, this is getting crazy, we have to stop this. But like, it still happened. That's my argument is that it will happen.
Yeah. I mean, if history repeats itself, and it seems to, because that's what happened with World War I, we were pushed into it. In World War II, we were pushed into it. And now in World War III, if it starts breaking out and getting really bad and destabilized over the world, then we're going to be forced to do something, because we can't just sit back and allow the world to destroy itself, because we're part of the world.
Yeah.
But it's still, so far we've been able to stay out of a world war. I mean, some people think that we're in the middle of a world war because of all the proxy wars that are going on. But it's not like a world war like World War II was.
It's not like a huge, crazy war, where everybody is all in it, There's no draft,
Ah, man. I don't know what would happen if there was a world war. Do you think if there was a World War III, after that, would we finally be done with wars and borders and just become one species instead of
I don't even think that
divided by countries?
I think that even if we had to fight aliens, there would still be some humans that would side with the aliens, and we would still have to fight humans. I don't think there will ever not be a war. Maybe we would need a perfect scenario to stop world wars,
Yeah.
Not just have the last one stop,
Yeah, I mean, there'll always be conflict, but that doesn't mean that there always has to be war. Like, people can talk their way out of conflict. If, China wants something specific and we want something else, we can, I think, come to a middle ground. If both of us are willing to work with each other, we can come to a middle ground, have a dividing line, not have to go to war, and even both profit off of it. And I don't think going to war, especially a world war at that scale with the technology that we have nowadays, I don't think that it's necessary. Does that mean I don't think it's going to happen? Of course not. I think that anything can happen. And some of the aggressive statements that are being passed back and forth between world leaders is pointing to the idea that maybe it will happen. Mm-hmm. But I still think that there's ways around it. Like, I feel it's just disappointing to see us as a species and us as a society and think that we haven't gotten past that point of let's just kill everyone who doesn't agree with us,
Well, I feel like, if we were to get into a war, we would be the good guys.
God, that's so ignorant.
I know, but you understand, like, we're not going to go to war with, like, someone who's peaceful, We're not going to go into Japan anymore and be like, yo, you guys are ours now, or we're going to go to, like, Europe and be like, you guys got to start doing it this way, We're going to go to some crazy, horrible place and be like, yo, your quality of life is so bad, we're taking over your government, and we're going to put this guy here because
oh my God, that's exactly what destabilized the Middle East. We did that in Iraq.
We did that in Japan, and it worked.
Yeah. There's
They have
no right
to want.
answer.
They have to want a better quality of life. We could give them. You could put a hose down a horse's mouth and give him water, I guess.
No, well, no, the horse might drown.
Well, you regulate how much water it gets.
You only get this much technology. Sorry, you only get a couple of schools.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're right. If like people, even like with addicts and stuff like that, or people who are making poor decisions with their life, they have to want to change in order to change. Someone can't, like a loved one, no matter how much you love somebody, you can't force them into changing the way they are and who they are. It's the same thing with the way a country is being run. But the thing that is scary is that just because the people in the country want something a certain way doesn't mean that country is going to change, because I'm sure the people in Africa don't want to be enslaved and working in diamond mines, but they are, because there's a small group of people on top who have all the money and all the guns. So we can't do anything about that.
That would be, because that's not even on, nothing in Africa is on the list in any way for these
We have a
armies
lot of troops
and all
in
these
Africa.
things. But even like having a force, nothing like is African. Like maybe if you want to be, I don't know, SJW about the whole thing, why don't we go in and start building in Africa? Like I always thought, if you're gonna make a space elevator, it has to be in like Africa or in Kenya specifically. Because it has to be near the equator, because it has to be spinning to rotate out, and it needs to be in like a place not really that like weathery, and that's like perfect spot. So
Yeah.
Africa eventually will be, when we start making a space elevator, one of the most thriving places that could ever be.
I hope
because they're
it does.
central spot from space. So that's going to happen. So we should really start
think about
going in
this.
there and building it up and get rid of the slaves, get rid of the diamond mines. I mean, we went in there with like our machines. We'd be 1,000 times better than using slaves for that. Like, and in a way, maybe you could say that we owe it to them, even though it wasn't us. It was the Portuguese and themselves selling slaves.
It was a combination of a lot of different people. But you're right. I think that if we, as a country, I mean, we already are like giving them technology, and I'm hoping that the things that we do as a country are bettering people's lives over there.
Yeah. Well, it's better than like what these missionaries do. They give them a Bible and then say that fucking, don't use a condom, it's bad. Like that's not the good things they need. They need actual, like we need to start building cities basically. Just build a city there and let them go into it and teach them how to like build it and run it and everything, and then it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
It's said that corruption and money is what prevents like a country from thriving and being able to grow like that. Well, I mean, there are some good things happening, because in the countries in Africa that they have some type of technology, there are no like telephone poles, because everybody there, their first phone wasn't a landline, it was a cell phone, so there are just cell phone towers. So they have they can start from scratch if they had the resources and build a completely technological society.
That's actually really cool.
In Africa, because they don't have all the old primitive infrastructure that America has.
Yeah.
They have the potential of growing and surpassing both America and China and Russia, because they're starting from scratch. They get to learn from our mistakes.
The space elevator. That is the best location for it. If it's going to happen, it's going to be in that area. So they are going to be the central, because there's no real good spot that is land-based on the equator besides that one spot.
And now it all comes back to like, how do you allow the people of those countries to thrive and to run like a real a balanced, not corrupt government? You have to get the corrupt people. No, but you have to get the corrupt people out. And how are you going to do that? the only way to do it is with force, and then it comes all
Yes,
comes back
back
to
to war.
a possible World War III. Because
But that's the whole thing about why I even brought up Africa, because it's so huge. And it does have a lot of people. Like, if you count all the people that live in Africa, it's a giant amount of people because it's a huge area, but yet, not a force in a world war.
yeah,
Also because they're so divided, too.
yeah,
It's not actually Africa like a country. It's a continent of Africa with a whole bunch of countries.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. What's the answer?
I definitely think a world war will happen again. I'm not too sure about the forces that will be at play and who will side on who, and maybe who will turn from one side to the other side, or what will happen, when it will happen, what it will be over about. But I'm pretty sure it will happen again.
Yeah, but do you want it to happen? There are some good things
Maybe.
that came out of the first two world wars.
Yeah, maybe. I probably would. I mean, because it will settle a dispute. Whatever the dispute is about, it should settle it, Whether through the war will settle it, or the peace treaties from the war will settle it, But something will be settled from it. Because we're not
Personally, I hope that it never gets to that point. But anything's a possibility. Just the fact that we're talking about it, I think, is a good thing. Mm-hmm. Getting some ideas out there. What do you guys think? Let us know at openmindedepisodes@gmail.com. And if you want to sign up for the United States draft for World War III, we'll leave a link in the description. All right, see you guys next time.
Later.